Prime Minister Stephen Harper says Europe should have gotten its fiscal act together by now. Over the past 4 years, the financial crisis has been looming over Europe, and the region still has no long-term plan to fix the problems. For more on this, we're joined by Alex Jerseski. He's the managing partner of Recovery Partners. Great to see you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me on board.
It's interesting what the Prime Minister said in terms of, you've got a central monetary union, but not the fiscal means to do that, government to do that, those kinds of things that weigh into things. Do you think that that's a critical problem in Europe right now?
Well, I think the critical problem is the fact that these politicians in Europe are continuing to talk about solutions that can't possibly apply, that can't possibly be put into effect. For example, this talk of a fiscal union, this talk of issuing joint euro bonds, might sound great in theory, but it'll never happen because you need everyone to agree. And we know that there's an overwhelming majority of folks in the northern part of Europe, particularly Germany, that are never going to agree to that. And we know that the German constitution will not allow that unless you put it to a referendum vote. So how can this possibly happen? These folks have continued to talk about solutions and moving towards those type of solutions over some time frame without any basis of expectation that these solutions could actually be implemented. We've got to start talking about what can happen and what should happen rather than what's nice to have.
Okay, well, The Economist has a great article coming out in this weekend's magazine coming out, and I just get it electronically early, and it talks about Merkel. She's the key decision maker. Do you think that's the case?
Well, of course, the Germans have negative control over all of this, and what the Germans are trying to do is minimize the damage to their own economy. Everybody's stuck together in a sinking ship, and the Europeans are continuing to argue about how to plug the leaks without recognizing where the leaks are. They're continuing to pay lip service to, for example, this EFSF, the ESM mechanism, the bailout mechanism, as a solution to Spain's problems. The ESM-ESFF mechanism is dead in the water. It's a credit guarantee.
All you need to do is print money, and you can fill that thing up.
Yeah, but the ECB can't do that. I mean, but the news this morning was Merkel was saying, well, we have these mechanisms in place. The ESFF, which will be succeeded by the ESM, is a bailout mechanism, and that's going to solve some problems because we can, again, bail people out. But that mechanism is itself bankrupt. It's a credit guarantee mechanism that relies on the credit quality of the guarantors, which are all the EC countries, to raise money in the market and then on-lend it to these bailout countries. But as we saw yesterday, we had a triple-notch downgrade for Spain. The value of those credit guarantees has gone down. The calls on the existing resources in that fund are there. And if you add it all up, there's $0 left, €0 left to bail anybody out. The IMF has now gotten into the act, and yesterday they announced that they'd accumulated commitments of about 400 billion US to apply to some kind of bailout process in Europe. But the reality is that these problems are far too large. The 400 would be swallowed up in half of what Spain needs. As an example, Pat, last fall, they were talking about the recap of the European banking system is requiring some 120 billion euro, and that would be funded by the ESFF mechanism, the ESM mechanism. Today, this morning, we find out that the bailout of the banks in Spain alone could require as much as 100 billion euro. So the folks in Europe are continually behind the 8 ball. They're playing catch up. The politicians haven't put forth a solid program. And again, yesterday we found that instead of going for concrete proposals in the near term, they're now trying to stretch this out even further. Rompuy, the EC president, was on the tape yesterday saying, well, all we're looking for is some building blocks, which we'll be discussing now in October. There may not be that much time. The markets could get impatient and punish some of these debtor countries viciously before then.
Are you in the camp that the European Union fails entirely?
On the basis of current trends and how this has gone on so far, I can't see any way out for these guys but that it somehow fails and you end up with a two-tier structure with the Nordics, including Germany, going off on their own. Germany, Austria, Norway, Sweden, Netherlands going off in sort of a euro fall, a strong euro. And then you've got the peripherals, the weak countries, the downgrade countries going off on their own with a weaker euro and a weaker track. Or it could end up in some kind of uncontrolled disintegration with a lot of social and political upheaval.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Alex, great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Alex Rzeszewski, managing partner of Recovery Partners.